Hello, everyone. So today we're going to speak about building reusable composables, and this talk will be structured in this way. A little bit of slides, lots of live coding. Why? Well, I like being miserable on stage and debugging, and I love hearing sound like, hey, you forgot comma on line 67. So if you see I'm failing, don't hesitate to yell like that. If I could, I would probably ditch the slide altogether. Makes me nervous to speak with slides, going to corporate, but there is but. The slides will quickly revisit what composition API is in general. And we need to remember that many Vue speakers, core team members, and everything live in this bubble where we think that everything is Vue 3, composition API, and scripts it up already. And we test. And Vite. No, it's not. I can really empathize with a guy who asked Evan about migration from Vue 2 to Vue 3, because we didn't migrate to. Like, my own work is on Vue 2 because of the dependencies. Like, whoever is using Bootstrap Vue knows what I mean. It's a pain. So, revisiting composition API and speaking about fancy topic of composables, because we can now use them with Vue 2.7, which has its own issues, but we won't touch it in this talk. So, first thing is, what is the problem we want to solve? That's why people asking, why should I migrate the composition API? I mean, some people will jump to it immediately just because it's new. And new tool, migrate immediately. Some of them will still asking questions like, everything was fine in Vue 2, why do I need this new tool? What problem we are trying to solve? And this answer will be discovered during the talk. So quickly repeating Vanessa's. I'm Vue.js core team member. I care mostly about Vue documentation, so I guess you all read what I write. I'm sorry for that. I work as a staff front-end engineer at GitLab, which uses Vue 2. Thanks, Bootstrap Vue again. And I'm a Google developer expert in web technologies. So if you never heard what composition API is, because, well, it can happen. It's fine. So the point is that we can create standalone reactive state. That's how composition API is different from all your utils, helpers, or however you call this fancy file where you store your utilities. The main difference is like you can not only have functions, but you can have reactive state, and we normally use refs for this. We also have reactive, whoever uses it. And we can use this reusable part of logic with state with Vue components. So for example, instead of having everything in our options, you go with setup. And you can put this in the composable, of course. So abstracting. Instead of having setup, you have your cool use form. And you create two properties on the reactive state. And you just get it back with a submit form, which console logs. So in my component, instead of putting everything to setup, you just use your use form. How is this different from everything else? Why it's useful? We had the same, right? It combines two important features. It's flexible and universal logic composition. Flexible part. Previously, you, me, everyone had mixins. It was even recommended in Vue 2 docs for some time. So everyone abstracted their logic in mixins, which is not the best coding practice, honestly. And this one does the same thing. It abstracts a part of the logic there. But is it flexible? What if I, for some reason, need to know some external parameter, like, I don't know, form ID or something else? I cannot really pass it to mixin by default. I can go further. I can create a mixin factory and start passing parameters, but it's already a bit too complicated. Mixins are not flexible. They quite universal, but not flexible. Universal part, another way to abstract logic. Previously, we had scoped slots. We could pass anything we want to them, and we can retrieve. This is basically, in some terms, very similar to the composition API. I still get my login, password, submit form, and my form wrapper performs the logic under the hood. Is it universal, though? The problem here is everything I want to access is only available within form wrapper. So if for some reason I want to use logging in my script part or just outside of this. It's not possible. It's not universal. It's really good, better than mixins, but it's not as universal. So let's try to kind of work with the same problem with the composition API. And this is where slides stop. So, OK, let's go out of the full screen, not like this. So what we will be building today? We will try first to create a simple composable to fetch data and have the loading, state, and error, and everything abstracted. And then we will play with this, make it a little bit bigger, with this spinning wheel, which will select APIs for me. And we will see how abstract this composable is, and if it's possible to handle all the APIs with one composable. So, oh, that's a spoiler. I mean, if we get Rick and Morty API, I cannot promise. It's really random. I didn't hard code the wheel. So here we have a simple form where we can type anything. And so far, it does literally nothing. Let's go to the code. Spoiler, I don't use light theme in real life. It's only for the conference, I swear. It's just really light here. So let's start building things. We have search term here. And we want to search data in some API with this search term. So we will need access. I'm not using any kind of access plugin. I hope you don't too. So access, and we start building some function. I don't know, fetch image, because it's image. And here we say that it will be a sync function, of course. Let's do access, get. And for the first API, it's fixed. We won't be using the wheel. The wheel is for random ones. And the first API we're going to use, it's cats API, well, because cats. Just no worries. In the wheel, there is also dog API, so there is a balance. So we want to fetch our cats in this particular case. And instead of breed ID here, we will have search term value. OK. And of course, we need to return it and use it somewhere in the template on form submit. And by the way, you remember Evan asked you if you like script setup. I'm not the one who likes script setup, so we're using a normal script here, where everything is returned explicitly. Won't make any PR for that, just my preference. So let's go to our application, remove everything from the search, and just try to make this a little bigger too, so everyone can see what we're doing here. And let's so there is some search. Something happens, and we have an image. We need to shape our data, like normally you do with API response, and there is array, and the URL property of the first object in this array is our actual image. So let's add a few things. Oh, I didn't put await, and nobody told me there is no await. Come on. Don't be afraid to yell if I'm doing something wrong. I mean, it works, but so let's go with so we are waiting for access here. And then we say that result value is equal to response, data, because REST API, 0, because it's array, URL. OK. Quick check if it works. It doesn't. That's nice. Oh, because connection timeout. Why? Network. Yeah, it works. Just the internet is a bit slow. So we have some random cats here. Let's see if search works. This is not Abyssinian cat. Come on. Let's search a few more times. Yeah, this is Abyssinian. So let's assume it works. In real life, of course, you never call API like that. We are responsible developers. There should be loading state and error handling as a minimum. So they're already here. Let's make them work. So let's create a try catch. Try catch, please. We won't have an error from try catch, and we set like loading value is true, right? We start loading, then we move all our fancy thing to the try block. And I mean, we can also have result set to empty string. And it's already a lot of things you want to abstract. It didn't even finish, but it's like, it's already too much work for simple loading thing. So error value is true here. And we probably want error value to be false when we start, just in case. And of course, in the end, there is annoying loading value is equal to false. Ooh, OK. Is there a loading state? So now there is loading. There is a woman with a cat, apparently. OK, fine. Never seen that. But if we type something super wrong, something went wrong. So OK, this works. Not abstracted any single point. So let's start building a composable. That's why we're here. Let's go to composables and start saying something like use fetch JS. And the first thing, like, OK, expert function, use fetch. And first thing you do is just copy-paste literally everything and put it there. Abstract enough for me. And then, of course, we need to import ref from view. And here is the point where we start thinking. What does belong to composable and what doesn't belong to composable? Because currently, it's not flexible. I mean, I know people who would probably leave it like that, put it into component, like, works. Component is really small. We just use one composable, and it's abstracted. Well, it's not. So loading definitely belongs to the fetch. We're fetching the data. Error does to result, yes. Search term, it can in some cases, but if we want a reusable one, it's not here. We don't need search term. It belongs to the component. Because in your composable, we want to fetch data and have all the state related to fetching data. Maybe your component doesn't perform any search. Maybe it just does a fetch. And now we also get in here to Axios. Yeah, of course, I can import Axios, but like, how we can make this more abstract? First idea is pass URL and just leave Axios here. Whatever URL we have, you pass and handle. What if I use Axios post? What if I use fetch somewhere else on a big project? Maybe I want to. What if there is also GraphQL API and I want to perform search using some other client? The best idea here, honestly, is not to abstract the URL. It's not enough. The best idea would be to remove this altogether and pass the whole method down. So let's say it will be something like get results. And I won't have any response here. For now, I want to have that result, my result value is equal to, I actually have it, to whatever get results return. Why we don't have any kind of shaping data? Again, for reusable composable, I could pass get results, and I could also pass any method that would shape the data. Just does some kind of mapping or retrieving data from the object, but we will just bake everything into get results. Because we have Axios call, that's a promise. We can just use the then and have it shaped in the component too. Of course, we're not returning any kind of search term. And instead of calling it fetch image, I prefer naming it something more abstract, like fetch data, because maybe it's not image in the end. So now it looks more or less reusable. So let's go back to the component, import our use fetch, and see if it works. I would be surprised if it works from the first try. Usually it needs some debugging. Import use fetch from composables, use fetch. OK, so now we can remove everything from here, leave search term as it is, and say that everything besides search term is not here, and we're getting use fetch. So far, we're not passing anything. So we also have fetch data. Right, see, there is someone helping. And it's fetch image now. And we don't have fetch image anymore, but we need to pass the callback, our getResult function. So my typical mistake is just to move await Axios get right there. Nope, it should be a callback. So we want to get our Axios get, but also we want to say that when we have the result, we want to shape the data the same way we did. It's a bit complicated getResult function, but it works. I mean, I hope. OK, let's see. Now it really works. Search, nope, it doesn't. So why? Cool. Now we are debugging. And to do this, we will go here, and we have catch, right? And we do console log debugging. If you see an error, just say so, because things happen. Oh. Yeah, getResult is not a function. I want. Wait. No, it's passed correctly. It's in the use fetch. So let's see if it's here. OK, let's turn back and say, again, like callback, right? Axios get whatever we have here. Just not with a string. It's like every single time you practice it a million times and then you fail. Like in a real job. Yep, and you debug it for hours. And it was something stupid, obviously. OK, let's try without the callback, but I'm almost sure we require the callback here. Interesting. What is getResults then? Right. See, I told you, like every single time it's something extremely stupid. OK, back to callbacks. Cool. No, you should be OK now. So we pass it here. We pass it here. Ew, cats. Yeah, that's what you get for like basically coding junior task on stage and failing. So, cool, reusable. Let's see how reusable it is, and let's try just twist a bit from the wheel, and just let's try to add the component that also uses the same composable. See, spoiler, see, I already had it here. Also with the loading and everything. So let's import our child component here and see what happens if you try to reuse your composable. So import child component from our components, child component view. Use it in components. I wish we had the same, like Eduardo did show us for roots, but with components. When I import the component, so yeah, script setup is better with this. I need to agree. So let's use it here. Child component. OK. So now we have a bit more things. We have additional button, and when I click it, there is a loading state, because I have access to the loading. However, you can see that this state is not shared. Let's make our network a bit more slow 3G. So you can see that it's not that slow. It's apparently faster with 3G. You can see that they are not in sync. And also, one more thing. If I click like a billion times here, it's still in flight, but it allows me. Of course, I can disable it when loading is there. But maybe I should just prevent this on the global level. So how do I make loading state shared with a composable? Again, important thing with the reusable composables is to understand the scope of the state you have in your composables. Currently, whenever you use fetch, we have new loading, fresh one. How do we reuse it if I want loading common for two components? Simple. Look at this. This is it. We move it outside of the useFetch function. And now, if we go to our main page, two loadings. You can see that now we have a very basic shared state. If you were yesterday on Vanessa's workshop, you have probably seen this already, but it's simple. And I also can go with a simple deduplication here. So for example, I can say that if loading value return. So with an early return, I can click as much as I want, but it only goes when the loading state is false. However, we plan to abstract and use different APIs. So for my case, I'm fine with having loading within the function. So we can get rid of our child component and continue with our will, because that's why we're here. Let's see how much time do we have. Well, will not as much, but let's try. So please don't be Pokemon API, please. Ooh, cool, Rick and Morty. So this is GraphQL API. Maybe I will show it as a second one. Let's get something for REST API too. Oh yeah, balance. We had cats, now we have dogs. So dogs. We have our dogs by breed. Yeah, we have, and breed is here. So you can see breed hound images, or we can just have a random image. What do we go for? So we go by breed. We just get our URL, come back to our reusable composable, and replace this stuff here. And we'll see if it works with it. So instead of hound, we will have our search term, value. And for now, I just only return the response because I don't know the shape of the data here. And that's why also it's not a part of the composable. You don't know what is the shape. You cannot abstract it. OK? Yep. I see. It's in the fetch. Yep, I put it there. So app view, search term. Wait, it should be fine. Yes, and I didn't type it, so Husky. Whatever. This is not a child component, wait. I also put it in the useFetch? Yep, const. I really enjoy this live coding with the audience. OK, we have it. We don't have URL, obviously. So we need to kind of shape this stuff. So let's fetch it again and see what's going on. We have images. So now it's data, message, 0, and that's it, I guess. So response data, message, 0. No, 0. OK. Oh. Yeah, because I have slow network. still. Yeah, because I again forgot to type Husky. See, like it's, oh, that's Husky. That's a really nice one. And like super quick one for GraphQL, because if we're on the stage, why not use GraphQL API too? You're not bound to REST. And if you think that to use GraphQL, you need fancy client like Oracle, Apollo, whatever, no. GraphQL is the same kind of request, you just need to use POST. So I already have the query for the characters. That's why I'm cheating and just creating a constant here. So we have this GraphQL query, and we pass a parameter, name. So we need to modify our Axios getabit. First of all, GraphQL uses POST for requests. It doesn't have any parameters in the URL, but it accepts the body query, and we also have variables. And for variables, we have name. You can see it here in the query. It accepts the name string. We should be our search term value. And then response, because again, I don't remember the shape of the API by heart. OK. So there is some random image, because we didn't do any shape. Here we go. So it's data, data, characters, results, 0 image. Bear with me. That's the best one, because you have data from API call and data from the GraphQL. So it's like, OK, REST, API. Data, data, characters, results, 0, image. OK, now, yeah, we have Rick. And just for the balance, because you have seen this spoiler, right? We also have Morty. So this one is pretty abstract, as you can tell. Using with different APIs works good. I mean, if you try any from these APIs and any other API, it would still work. Maybe you will fail a bit, just like I did, but still. And this is the main, actually the main reason, because in Vue 2, to abstract this, I don't know, probably I would create a scoped slot still, but it's not as flexible. So thank you all for listening. Sorry for keeping you a bit longer for your coffee break. Don't stand between people and their food.